Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's such a pleasure to have you connected with us in this last and final Transformational Tuesday in live session. Today, our speaker and guest is none other but Dr. Harris himself. It's really a pleasure to have you all connected. I think it's a really nice way to end the year with all your wonderful faces, your beautiful energy, and I think hopefully this is going to be an environment where we can really kind of share and express. And so without further ado, I'll pass on the mic and the torch to Dr. Harris Syed.
Thank you so much, John. And everyone, I was just saying that earlier, it just feels like home. Many of you, in fact, almost everyone I recognize, either I've met you in some other class or in my class or however, but it just feels that we are sitting in a place where we just know each other, right? And if I can see all of you on video, that's just going to be amazing. Yeah, because, you know, it's not about you, but it's about me. I'm a very visual person. I like to see who I'm interacting with. Yeah, and if I get to interact through video, nothing better than that. Everyone, first of all, I would like to thank you because most of you have attended our webinars on Transformational Tuesdays. And I can't thank you enough that how successful you've made them by attending every week and sharing your thoughts and comments and inputs on how we're doing and how you're liking and how you're enjoying. And today is also the last webinar of the year for Transformational Tuesday. So I wanted to personally come in and say thank you for that, and then also speak a little bit on the topic that I shared, which is essentials of transformational coaching. And also I've got a good news for you that what are we bringing for the next year? Are we excited? Yeah, before that, everyone, please know that maybe you can hear my voice. I may have difficulties in speaking in between, so I will pause for a few seconds and I will continue. But I will do my best to make sure that I deliver your expectations. And since most of us are really known to each other, you would also know that I'm not a very presentation person. I'm more of a discussion, dialogue, and interaction kind of a person. So let me share my screen and everyone, please feel free to ask questions on chat box if you have any question, comment, thought, and I'm sure John will help me to let me know if there are questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, John. And it is going to be interactive. And I always say any learning is as interactive as you make it. Now, I leave it to you to decide how interactive you want to make it. And to enjoy this experience, it is important you have already brought yourself into the Zoom room, and you also bring yourself into the room. And bring your whole self, which is your body, your mind, your heart, your emotions, and leave everything aside so that we can make this hour very productive and interactive. Do I have a promise on that we are fully present in this Zoom room today? Thank you. Thank you. So, can you all see my screen, everyone? So, here I go. Essentials of transformational coaching. And when we talk about transformational coaching or any coaching process, be it any school of thought you belong to, what is very common always is there are two things that a coaching practitioner will tell us, that they are listening and asking questions. Yeah, so listening and asking questions is really a premises and a ground of any coaching process to happen. Now, it sounds very easy that we should be listening and we should be asking questions. And we all know, I think most of you I see are coaching practitioners. I think you all are practicing coaching, you know coaching, you've either undergone certification or you have that knowledge that coaching, the fundamental premises is listening and asking questions. And tell me from your experience, what have you found as coaches that listening and asking questions, how much did you practice before really coming to coaching? What was your version of these two skills, listening and asking questions? What did it really mean to you? And then you're going to look at what it is for coaches or what it should be for coaches and how do we really integrate that. So what do you think are these skills that you knew about? When what were you calling listening or asking question? What was it for you?
Dr. Harris, would it be okay if we invited everyone to feel free to share in the chat their comments, thoughts, and ideas? And if anyone would like to unmute and kind of verbally share with us your thoughts, we would love to hear from you.
Yeah, that'll be better. Yeah. I mean, listening is always better than reading. Yeah, on the Zoom chat.
Yes.
However, please raise Zoom hand. That is just going to make easy for John and I.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Stacy, would you like to start?
Hi, everybody. Good morning. Coach, I always thought I was doing listening prior to doing this program, but I would say the purpose of it would have been very different. For me, especially being in HR, the purpose of listening to me was to help somebody solve a problem. So I would ask questions for me to understand how can I solve their problem? How can I help them? And so joining CTA's program now, it just really changed my approach completely in terms of what is the purpose now for my listening and the purpose for asking questions, because it's no longer about me, it's about the other person and just serving the clients. So that has been a big change that I needed to make because I had to unlearn a lot of what I was doing before.
Right. You said, Stacey, listening to solve a problem. And you know what's the difference in coaching? Do we listen to solve the problem?
Yes, no, I understand the difference in coaching now, which is why it caused me to have to break so many old habits.
Thank you, Robin.
Yes, it's fascinating, and it's taken me a few years to recognize till I came to CTA that for a long time, I was listening in a reactive manner, always sort of subconsciously or unconsciously preparing and reloading, as opposed to truly, purely listening without my filters. And the CTA experience has really helped me take a step back and always ask myself, if I'm going away when I'm listening to somebody, that's when I catch myself, that stop, that does not belong here. And this is truly pleasurable.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you. Alia?
Yes. Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, for me, listening before was to respond. Hello.
Yeah,
Yes,
we can.
listening. Usually when I listen to somebody, it's usually I prepare what I'm gonna answer. I think this is a default mode that everybody was like. We've been raised like this. I don't know about me, but I mean, I think about everybody else, but I think this is the passive listening that we use everyday life. You listen, then you're preparing and maybe a response or an action or anything for you to counteract that the other person, and that shift. I mean, it takes practice, and I'm still still learning and catching myself when I do that. So it's a growth. I think it's going to take time. Yeah, but I mean,
right.
it's a really big shift that we need to make mentally, I think, to really to hone that skill. And I'm trying to use it with my kids, with my husband, especially before the clients.
Thank you, Alia. Appreciate that.
Yogesh?
Hi, good evening. So everyone's covered the listening bit. It's obvious that listening with agenda and analysis before, and trying to listen from a very blank space from source, as we've been taught. I'd like to also go with the asking questions. Before, asking questions was for me to understand, or for me to give a solution, or for me to lead them to a thing. But now the asking questions are coming from how can I ask a question in the client's language, which can make a difference in their world? How can they know more? So that's been a huge shift, and it's still a learning work in progress, but I absolutely love the journey.
Thank you for that. Emmanuel?
Yes, for me, it's a very big shifts. I have a background into operations, and I was always telling, and colleagues and of course collaborators have given me several feedback that I don't listen, and I go for several training, and they say my weakest point is that I'm not a good listener. So you can imagine it was so frustrating, and so when I started this journey with the CTA, for me, it's a 360 degrees change. Listening to the client, trying to create the space and create the psychological safe space. And that allows me to be able to ask questions in the perspective of the client, and to be able to help the client to be able to explore and come up with the direction to his or her problem. So for me, it's a complete shift, completely from, it's a complete change. I think the word transformation suits it well. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, CTA, for offering me this great change.
It's our absolute pleasure. I know there's so many amazing people, Eleni, I know you're ready to share, but if you don't mind, we're going to just jump into something really quick and then move back into that space, if that's okay, in order to make sure that the time is going to be moving smoothly. Is that all right? Do I have permission to do that? Yeah? Okay, cool. So just before we continue forward, would it be okay for us to share a small poll with you, just to get a feel for also some input from you, so we can serve you best during the call? Dr. Harris, is that okay if I ask the team to run the poll? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So team, Sanchit, Soham, it's all yours. There you go. You can see a poll right now. If you take just a second to answer it, that'll be very helpful for us, and also we will be able to serve you best. Thank you so much. Very interesting. Wonderful. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you all sharing your thoughts and ideas. Gives us some context into roughly how to guide our conversation in order to be of value to you all. Dr. Harris, I pass the mic back to you.
Thank you. And this is really interesting to see that 79% people are coaching practitioner, and it just makes our conversation easy, because then we understand that you and I can speak the same language and you will understand. Yeah. And for those who are exploring, I can tell you, you will feel belonging just by listening to it. Yeah. So thank you, John, and the team for running that poll. Let's go back to the question. And I hear what people are saying, that listening was more to respond. Listening was more to formulate answer. Listening was just to understand. And today we see listening as coaches from a different perspective. And what I want you to do is have a look at this. I am going to ask you to see this video, and whatever you're seeing here, I want you to write it on the Zoom chat. What are you seeing? So let's look at this. So let's try to respond to the chat box and share with us, what did you see through this video? And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So what responses are we getting here? Survival. Look at those responses, John. Do you see them?
I do. I was just, it's really interesting perspectives. It's very interesting to see how everyone is kind of interacting with the video itself and giving it context. Very, very interesting responses.
Mm. Thank you. So what I'm seeing is conflict and resolution, team, individual effort. Sometimes we need to break it down and see more options available, communication barrier or conflict. And let's see. So we know that we respond to our perceiving. What we perceive, we project. So in the video that you just saw, you responded to what you perceived. And isn't it that our perceiving is different in this moment? Yeah, with 49 people, 50 people, 67 people in this room, we probably have 100 different comments there. So what we did in this moment, we acted in response to our perceiving, and this perceiving came from somewhere in the body. And where in your body this response came from? Let's see, did it come from mind? Did it come from heart? Or was it intuition? So I want you to reflect back on what you have just responded and tell me, where did you respond from? Mind, heart, gut?
So I'm going to read some of the responses, if that's okay, just to verbalize some of them. I see gut, mind, heart, mind, gut, all, gut, mind, mind, heart, mind, gut,
Yeah.
heart, mind, heart. I'm trying to mind.
Let's hear from people. What informs you Was it from heart, mind, or gut? Where did you get that answer from for yourself? Who did you listen to? What did you listen to tell you it's coming from mind or heart or gut? Who's going to tell us? Anyone who wants to raise hand? And we'll keep this limited to 3-4 people because we don't want to take longer on this. So, Robin?
I was listening to my body.
Mm.
And I said gut.
Mm. Okay. And anyone, if you can tell me, if you said mind, what make you say it's mind? Go ahead, Sophia.
Good evening, Dr. Harris.
Good evening.
Nice to see you again after so long. And thank you very much for the CTA Foundation Transformation Certification and the diploma. I'm really honored to be with you today, really, and I was looking forward. I was going through my mind when I was looking at it, but I followed my guts.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone who wants to tell us a different answer or who thinks that you operated from some other space in your body? Yogesh?
So I'm not 100% sure, but I just took a few seconds. Right when it was playing, I saw a lot of answers coming in and my mind started rushing. At that moment, I just took a breath and I just tried to calm myself. And I think that's when I went in the heart space. I'm not 100% sure how I can actually know if it's the heart space or the gut space. So I'd actually like to know from you, how can I tell that difference?
Oh, thank you, Yogesh. We will get to that.
Xavier, if you don't mind, can we invite?
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
I was thinking from the mind because the work I do, I'm always in a position to where I have to constantly be thinking. And yes, the gut plays a part and the heart does play a part. But at the end of the day, I'm constantly reflecting and thinking.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you for sharing. Eleni?
As I was watching the movements and everything, it hit me right in the heart. So this is why I responded heart.
Thank you so much. Shaheen, my dear friend.
Hi there, everybody. Hi, John. Hi, Harris. Yeah, for me, because it was a visual thing that I've seen with my eyes, so that drew me into the mind because it's a visual thing that I just witnessed now. So it's sometimes it's you falter between the mind, the gut, and the heart, and it depends on how you hear, see, and feel, so that you can determine out of that aspect. So there wasn't any sound to it, so I couldn't hear anything, but from the mind, what I saw aggression. So that's where the mind has actually gone through to pinpoint what I've actually utilized the skills within me to pinpoint which one is coming out of.
Thank you so much for that. Sorry, Dr. Harris, if you'd like to.
Thank you, Shaheen. You know what you said, Eleni and Xavier and Shaheen and all of you. So Xavier said, the kind of work I do, I'm generally at a mind space. Now, because we have a habit of living there, you saw it from that space, irrespective from where was it originating. Because I have a habit of being in the mind state or in a cognitive space, I'm going to listen from there. And what you said, Eleni, is interesting. It hit my heart. Did you notice you saying that? It hit my heart. Why do you think that it has hit your heart? That's where probably you are operating from in this moment. Yeah. So coaching, by the way, this video that I showed you is nothing. It's just an animation, isn't it? It's just an animation, but we all created meaning. We all listened to ourselves because this has, like Shaheen said, this had no sound, but we still listen to something, and that with ourselves. And similarly, when we are perceiving, we speaking to ourselves when our client is speaking, and either we're listening from heart, mind, or gut space. However, what I say in coaching is an interaction of integration. Coaching is an interaction of integration. Now, what are we doing here? In coaching, we do not interact with someone. We do not interact to someone or at someone. We remain in interaction with someone. And coaching is a space of staying in interaction for integration. Now, what is integrating here? The way we operate from either of these places, even our client is operating from mind, heart, gut space. When I look at a situation, if I'm very cognitive, maybe I'm thinking a lot from my head, or I'm very emotive about the situation, and the way I connect with the problem or situation that I am into, I'm going to stay with that space for a longer. And now we both meet, coach and client. If a client is from a mind space, and if it hits your heart, Eleni, when you say it hit my heart, so client is going to talk from mind space and you're going to talk from heart space. So the listening from heart or speaking from mind will happen, which is not the right listening space in coaching, isn't it? Because I'm and therefore what's going to happen, that interaction will not be in the same place, and therefore integration. Now, what is the meaning of the word integration? What do we know? What does it mean, integration? What is the meaning of the word integration, Robin?
Coming together, putting together.
Putting together.
Aligning.
And the other meaning is also making it whole, making it full and complete. So coaching is an interaction for integration, to see our client their whole being. And therefore, when we say we operate from head, heart, or mind, let's have a look at this. When a client is operating from mind, heart, and gut, what as coaches we're doing is we are integrating all of that together so that we can stay in interaction to integrate. And therefore, we need to be really able to see, if you're listening to our client, where are we listening from? Where are we listening from? Most of the time, coaches come, and when we're doing mentoring sessions, and coaches say, I just find it difficult to remember everything my client has said. How many of you feel that? Difficult to remember so many things our client is sharing with us. Yeah, Chandana, you're raising your hand there, right? So why do we find it difficult? Because the moment client starts to speak, we also start to listen to ourselves, not just the client. And what do we listen to? Is listen to our mind, heart, or gut, either of them. Either of them. Yeah. So what is the invitation for us as coaches is to really be focused in listening to our client and seeing and understanding, where is this our client speaking from? And how do we recognize that what is client speaking from? So we all know the language of head is different, language of heart is different, and language of intuition is different. The choice of what our client tells us, if the client is operating from mind, heart, or gut, and then connecting from that space and really accessing that in your body, and then coming for interaction. Now, what does that need for us to do is to be able to really forget what we bring along with ourselves and what experience do we have. And another thing, most of the time, sorry guys.
Bless you.
Thank you. Most of the time you will find that we are creating our own judgments. We are fast forwarding. It's because listening to ourselves is much more easier than listening to our client. And the invitation is to stop listening. You've got to stop listening to your client. You've got to stop listening to yourself and rather start to listen to your client. Yeah. Now let's look at this quote. And I always make this, I always say this in my training classes as well, that if you know this, you will understand coaching. And you will understand what a transformational coaching means. Now, we always talk about right and wrong. And remember, when I asked you, what did you see in the story, that video, and where did that response come from? You said mind, heart, and gut. You could have said nowhere and there's nothing, isn't it? You could have simply told me, right, John?
I wanted to add to that really quickly, if it's okay. May I share a small thing? Thank you for this exercise. You just took me back all the way to when I took the course with you. It was like a quick rewind, and just out of context, what I noticed was, and this is just a testament to how we are trained to follow through with transformational coaching. And again, the difference between transactional and transformational, not that transactional is bad, but when I was watching the video, the first response, the first sense that was giving me information was my gut, because I saw conflict. And then instantly I saw myself smoothly shift to the mind, which was now giving me analysis. And then I shifted to the heart, which usually is the most optimal position. And then what surprised me was that I actually decided to push back and put all three in display, drop. And then my brain instantly said, refocus in being in the moment and just take it for what it is. And that's why I didn't write a response, because I was just thinking, there is something to learn here. And as you were saying this, I just thought, and this is fundamentally what makes us very different once we get to the point where we decide to choose to not bring any content from our own, to consider it as a value, but to recognize it's going to happen, that noise is going to come through, that information might come through, sometimes it serves us, but ultimately to use that in the end and not during the moment where the client is fully engaged, and rather connect with them at that level. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, John, and I appreciate that. And that's what I want you to know, and I invite you to know, that not always you need to have an answer. Not always you need to conclude. Not always you need to tell me that this is what it means. It may mean nothing. Yeah, but we are designed to create meaning in our head. We are designed in such a way that we want to know. We are nurtured that way, that we want to know everything. And therefore, when I ask you, what did you know from this, or what did you learn from that? You said, whatever story. That's just a useless story, honestly speaking, isn't it? There was no aggression, you perceived it. There was no conflict, you perceived it. There was nothing in that story. It's just an animation. But you and we all, when we look at anything, we have meaning to everything. And what we need to know is not everything needs to have a meaning, for us at least. When we're listening to our client and we're perceiving our client, it is for them to create their meanings. For us, it is just to facilitate the process. And they will tell you what meaning do they have. And did anybody ask me that, what does it mean, Haris? Because I don't get anything from this. Because you assume that since I've asked a question, you have to have an answer. And you responded. And this is what transformational coaching is, that not every question needs to be answered. Sometimes a question needs reflection. Sometimes a question needs responses. Yeah. Sometimes a question needs just silence its space. And if we can stay there to absorb what's showing up in our body, we will learn more about our being and about ourselves and our situation. But we will always create meaning. So listening and creating meaning to response is dangerous. Listening to just listen, and listening to inquiry, and listening to be curious. Now, curiosity, I'll give you an example of my son. A couple of months ago, he was playing with the book, and it's a holy book. And I said, don't throw it and don't do it like this. It's a holy book. So he didn't understand what is holy book and said, what do you mean? And I said, it's a book of God. That's what I responded. And he immediately said, if this is the book of God, where is my book? And in that moment, I just felt true curiosity to know. He said, if this book belongs to God, where is the book that it belongs to me? And there was a moment where I really learned about curiosity from him. And I kept asking, wow, how can I be curious that way to really know what it is? And really know as is instead of what is. Because there's a difference. There's a difference between understanding and knowing what it is than as is. And most of the time, we add what if, which is our version of it. Sometimes students in our coach training classes, they ask me, how is what if? And then they share a story which has no background, which is just created. And I tell them, please do not ask a what if question, because it just does not belong to us. We haven't experienced it. Can we focus on what is first and then what if? And even in listening, we focus on what if and as if instead of focusing on as is. And that's the listening skill. Now, I'm seeing a comment here. I would love to hear a response to Alia's question. Do you?
I'll ask you. So Alia is saying, so how to connect with the client? We should not use our mind, gut, or heart.
We should use all of them, Alia, if that makes sense. We should use all of them and not one of them. Because as I said, coaching is an integration, is an interaction of integration. So when we interacting for integrating, it has to be a whole body, whole self for us and whole self for our client. So we should be really using mind, gut, and heart. And how do we start is really to understand where is our client operating from? Is our client operating from head? Is our client operating from heart? Or is our client operating from gut? So one of our client, and this is a very common thing to happen, a client comes and says, I want to work on productivity. I want to be more productive. Common question, common coaching situation, right? You must have faced it with many coaching sessions with your client. What do you think should be the response? And I will tell you what a beginner coach starts with. So anyone, you would like to tell me, what is it that your response should be on that?
Please feel free to raise your hand and I can give you the mic.
And I just had this coaching session, in the mentoring session in the morning, where a client started with, I want to be more productive. And I will tell you what coach responded. So anyone, what should be your question or whatever answer or response to that? Go ahead, Robin.
Yeah, so the first question I would is, help me understand how you define productivity.
Thank you. Now, what is, my follow-up question to you, Robin, is what is the purpose of understanding? What does it mean to our client?
Could you repeat that question one more time?
So what's the purpose of asking that question?
So the purpose, my purpose, let me own that. My purpose of asking that question is to clearly understand their map and their space and give myself a chance to banish mine.
And what else should you focus on? in that moment?
I would focus on whichever route they take, and I'm observing for instance, this mind, heart, body alignment. I'm focusing on which paths they choose to communicate so that I can effectively touch them at that connector. Match it.
Exactly. Thank you. Xavier?
I was thinking more productive about what? This drive to be productive. So I would want to know more about that to help me understand how you're getting to this issue or this point. Because I think part of it is this really the issue, or is this really the point you're trying to reach?
Thank you, Xavier, for bringing what you just brought in. Did you all notice how Robin responded and how Xavier responded? And did you notice in their language who is operating from where? Mind, heart, gut. There's a very clear evidence of who is operating from where. Xavier, did you just notice that about yourself and Robin?
Thanks for pointing that out.
And that's what we're observing when we're listening to responses.
Dr. Harris, if I can, we've got some responses here in the chat too. Would it be okay to share them? So
Yeah.
got a response from Mirza that says, what do you mean by productivity? Habatullah is saying, what stops you from being productive? Hamid saying,
Thank you for saying that. And thank you, John. If we can stay there, what stops you from being productive? Yeah. Or what does it tell us? If we ask that question, what stops you from being productive? What is it informing us? Yeah. Maybe I will ask Hibatullah, if you can answer. What are we recognizing, or what do we want to recognize from that question? What obstacles you need to overcome? Yeah. And again, what are we recognizing when we're doing all of this? We probably, all of us, when we're asking these questions, what does it mean? We first of all want to understand where is our client operating from? And let's not create a judgment of let's figure out obstacles, or let's figure out what is good or what is useful, or all of that. Let's just sit with no agenda. Let's just sit with no agenda and wanting to know nothing, and just make, thank you, Robin, and let's not have that assumption, and rather explore by asking, what does it mean, without having your own context or your background. And it is very human, and I'm going to show you last thing here. It is very human to have all these assumptions. It is very human. And why so? Let's have a look at this. Maybe I can share my screen. So John Whitmore's work on coaching constellation really inspired me for this metaphor here, which says that we all as human are like a peacock. We all are like a peacock. Now, what does that mean? That means that we, while we're seeing in front, we're carrying a huge baggage. Now, what that baggage is, our experiences, our education, family, yeah, our history, our geography, yeah, our culture, society, professional experience, yeah, upbringing, yeah, our interactions and how we experience those interactions, our emotions and history of emotions. Because how our parents have experienced emotion, we are very likely to relate to them easily and bring them forward. So all that is in the background. All that is along with us. We carry all of that baggage, and that baggage makes us see what we see. And what we need to know is while we're seeing something in front carrying baggage, when two people, me and my client, work together, we carry our baggage and client sees their baggage. Yeah, we two people carrying huge amount of baggage along with us. Now, what it requires us to see as coaches is just to see here and here. And not refer. This is not right. This is not right. Most of the time, we refer to our questions to what our baggage is. And that becomes a barrier in seeing what our client is carrying with them. And it is obvious to happen that you two or we two, when we meet, we will carry our map of the world together. But the need is just to see what is being shown, then seeing what we carry and being focused in what is being told and informed and told us as coaches or as we're listening to. So what does that reveal to you about your listening skill? What we just went through.
Shane.
Hi there, Harris. The journey that I've gone on Transformational Academy has actually helped me coach myself first in my thinking capacity. It's like you were saying now that as you go along, you empathize or sympathize with your client, determining on your baggage based on your thing. Because then when you have gone through that transformation in your life, basically, then you feel you can empathize and sympathize more. But when I came to your classes, I started to realize that it's not about the empathizing and sympathizing, basically. So you need to take your baggage one side and throw that out, because it's not all about you here now. You've got a client in front of you, and your client needs to be your client, not bring you in the room with your client, basically. So that's one of the greatest things that CTA has taught me at the end of the day, for me to understand that I need to leave my baggage outside because I've got a client here. Because when you're selling something, you're not selling something for yourself, you're selling something towards your client. So here you're assisting your client at the end of the day. So it's really fundamentally important to understand that you need to keep yourself out of it so that you can focus a lot more.
Thank you. And that's what people, Shane, many people ask me, what is it that, why is it that I don't stop assuming? Why is it that I don't fully listen to my client? That's okay to not to listen fully, because we are on a journey and this journey will never stop. All we need to know is, are we seeing our client's baggage or are we seeing our baggage? And few coaches also report that I need to empathize with my client. And I say, no. And I say, no. The reason for that is we only empathize when we have that in us. What we recognize in others is only what we have in us. And empathy only comes when you have a similar experience in your life. You start to see your experience and relate with your client. So if I tell you that I've had a very bad relationship with somebody, you will only understand when you've had a bad relationship with someone. And you calling me, you're empathizing, you're telling me you're empathizing, you are not empathizing with me, you're empathizing with yourself. You're telling yourself, I know I've been through that. So you're busy in I than you. Therefore, empathize with the client and not the situation. And in that empathy, what should come is the service to our client. And that service is the service of what they want to tell us. And we truly listen by remaining in interaction for integration, so that they can see their whole being. They can see what's their mind telling them. They can understand what's their heart telling them and what's their gut revealing to them. And when they are able to access all of that and integrate that, that's when coaching interactions are happening in that space.
Dr. Harris, may I add something small as a reflection?
Mm-hmm.
Brings me to ponder on two thoughts or experiences. The first is going back to your words that we are in many aspects a mirror to the client's experience. So reflecting back in a context where that gives them the ability to understand their own context, that which they cannot see behind them becomes present in front of them in a non-judgmental, in a disconnected format that allows them to reflect on and learn and use their own understanding to make sense of. And the second is that from our position, the fact that we are giving ourselves completely, unselfishly, is in context, maybe, at least for me, one of the greatest acts of love that we can do as humans. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, John. And in this moment, there is some energy in the room. It could be a virtual room, but we all are sensing some energy. And that we only recognize when we start to integrate everything together. So you're sitting physically, listening from your ears, but also accessing your heart, your mind, and your gut. And putting all together is coaching, transformation. And a journey begins from there. We have about 4 minutes. I will invite you to, if you have any questions, and then we can wrap up for today. I'm sorry, guys, my voice is not that good. I mean, I'm living from a temperature of 30, 35 degrees to 2 degrees, and my body is responding to it. If you have any questions for me, I would love to answer. Helen.
Yes, please.
Yes, I understand that to become a good coach, we need to work a lot on ourselves, of course, to understand our stretches and the areas where we need to grow, basically. It's a journey, as you said, and it's constant work, of course. So do you have any advice to continue this journey? Yeah, thank you.
Well, a very basic tip that I recommend. And Helen, are you asking for yourself or as a practitioner?
For myself and as a practitioner as well. Yeah.
As a practitioner, I always recommend that when you coach your client, transcribe every coaching that you do. And just read and listen to your client and to yourself. And to every question that you've asked, against that, you should write either you operated from mind, heart, or gut. Do that for 2 recordings, and you're good. That's it. It's very simple. And then you'll be able to apply that in any interaction.
Apologize, I didn't want to disconnect you. My listening brain just thought you finished the comment.
Did it?
I was just so excited to see Ritu. So Ritu, would you like to also share?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Your voice is a little low. You might have to raise it just a bit if you don't mind.
We can hear you, but it seems you're sitting in a tunnel. That's how it sounds, yeah.
Is it better now? Yeah. Okay. So, you just mentioned that we must empathize with the person and not with the situation. I really couldn't get the difference. Because for me, when I empathize with the person, the context, which is situation, is always there. Yeah. So how can I just empathize with someone and not empathize with someone's situation?
Well, what I'm hearing when you're saying that, it's not the context, it's the content that is there, and the context is added by us. Isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe somewhere at the back of my head at times, yes, we do add context.
We do have the content in front. What client is telling, well, we add our context to it. And that context is exactly the baggage, that feather, that peacock thing, yeah? So everyone, any other question? And as I promised that I'm going to also announce something new that we're going to bring in as it's the last Transformational Tuesday webinar. I will also announce what's going to happen next year. Next year sounds like a big gap in between, but like a 2 week away from now. Any question, or I can continue? So I will continue. It seems no question. So next year we're going to bring in a peer coaching or a coaching demonstration series where we're going to invite coaches from our students or graduates, and also the external coaches that we have like invited in Transformational Tuesdays. And we are going to provide you an opportunity to look at and listen to live coaching demonstrations and learn from those experiences together. So that's going to happen from next year, which is January 2nd week, and we will be keeping you posted. So please make sure you join, learn, and enjoy. Yeah, everyone, such a pleasure to see everyone today, and we shall keep in touch and see you next year. Enjoy Christmas, enjoy New Year, and take care of yourself. Okay.
Thanks a lot again, Harris, and everybody else for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. Thank you.
Thank you,
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Dr. Harris, and thank you, the whole team of CTA. You've been amazing.
Take care.